My name is Cassandra Wilson, but most people just call me Cassie. I am 34 years old, and until a few weeks ago, I thought I knew exactly what my life would look like. Same apartment, same job, same worries. Nothing glamorous, nothing terrible, just ordinary. But all of that changed the night 6 little numbers lined up in my favor. I didn't just win a lottery. I won $47 million. Up until that Tuesday, my days were painfully predictable. I woke up at 6 every morning, brewed the cheapest store-brand coffee I could find on sale, and drove my 10-year-old Toyota Corolla to work. I'm an accountant at a small marketing firm in Portland. The hours are long, the deadlines are brutal, and the paychecks always seem to stretch thinner than they should. Bills. Groceries. Student loans. Credit card debt that never seemed to shrink. It was a balancing act I had grown used to. The kind where one flat tire could ruin an entire month's budget. I didn't hate my life, but I was tired. Tired of scraping by. Tired of always being the one holding everyone else together while no one seemed to notice when I was barely standing myself. You see, my family has a complicated history with money. My parents divorced when I was 14. My father, Gregory, a high school physics teacher, remarried a woman named Stephanie. She's a real estate agent with expensive taste, designer bags, luxury vacations, the works. My mother, Diane, remarried too. Her husband Warren is a successful business owner, but tight doesn't even begin to describe him. He treats generosity like a weakness. I have 2 siblings. My older brother Jason is 36. He's charming when he wants to be, but he's never been able to hold down a job for long. Somehow, he always seems to land on his feet, usually on someone else's dime. My younger sister Lisa is 30. She's the golden child. Ivy League degree. Perfect surgeon husband named Paul. 2 kids, a house in the suburbs, and an Instagram feed that looks like a magazine. And then there's me. The middle child. The dependable one. The one they all called when they needed help but ignored when I needed anything in return. Let me be specific. 3 years ago, Jason called me sobbing, swearing he was ready to turn his life around if only he could go to rehab. The cost? $5,000. I emptied my savings account to pay it. Months later, I found out he never went to rehab. He blew the money on a fling in Vegas. Lisa asked me for help covering unexpected wedding expenses. I put $2,000 on my credit card for her. She promised she'd pay me back once the honeymoon was over. That was 5 years ago. Still waiting. My father once called in a panic about storm damage to his roof. I scraped together $3,500 for him. 2 weeks later, I saw photos of him and Stephanie drinking margaritas on a beach in Cancun. And Aunt Heather, my dad's older sister, organized a medical fundraiser a few years back. She said she needed help covering treatments. I sent what little I could. Later, I found out she had used most of the money for a shopping spree at a designer boutique. Do you see the pattern? I was the family ATM. Every time they had a crisis, real or fabricated, I was the one they drained. Every time I needed support, they were too busy, too strapped, or too tired. My one silly indulgence was buying lottery tickets. $10 every Friday at Gus's Corner Market. Gus has run that little store for over 30 years. He knows everyone's name, remembers their birthdays, and always asks how your mom is doing even if he's never met her. My family loved to tease me about this habit. My mom called it a tax for people who can't do math. My dad lectured me about probability and statistics. Jason joked I should just hand him the money directly instead of wasting it. Lisa laughed and said, "Oh, Cassie. Dreaming again?" But to me, those tickets weren't just paper. They were tiny little slips of hope. A way to imagine that maybe, just maybe, life could be different. It was my 34th birthday when I bought the ticket that changed everything. Gus handed me the slips with a smile. "Birthday luck, Cassie. Mark my words, today might be your day." I smiled back, not really believing it. But instead of quick picks, I chose the numbers myself this time. 3 and 16, my birth month and day. 12, my mom's birthday. 21, my dad's birthday. 9, Aunt Martha's birthday, my mom's younger sister and the only relative who never once used me for money. 30, Charlotte's birthday, my best friend since college. That night, I ordered takeout, poured a glass of cheap wine, and curled up on the couch. The drawing was at 8, but I was too tired to pay attention. It wasn't until 8:30 that I grabbed my phone to check. The first number matched. Then the second. The third. My heart was pounding. By the time the 6th number rolled into place, I couldn't breathe. I checked the website. I checked again. I rewound the live draw on TV. The numbers didn't change. I had won $47 million. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat on my couch staring at those numbers, my heart racing, my hands shaking. At first, I thought about calling someone. My mom, maybe. Or Lisa. Or even Jason. But then I remembered all the times I had given everything I had, and they had given nothing back. What would happen if they knew I had millions now? I already knew. Jason would beg for just one more chance to invest in his latest scheme. Lisa would need a bigger house, a better car, another loan she'd never repay. Dad and Stephanie would plan another vacation and expect me to fund it. Heather would host another fake fundraiser. And all of them would tell me it was my duty. Because family helps family. But when I needed help? Crickets. So I made a decision. I would claim the money. I would secure it. But I would tell no one. Not my parents. Not my siblings. Not even Charlotte, not yet. For once in my life, I was going to protect myself first. But even as I sat there with my winning ticket tucked safely in an envelope, a thought began to form. What if I didn't just hide the money? What if I used it to finally see the truth about my family? What if I gave them the chance to show up for me, not with dollars, but with something even more valuable? Time. Trust. Kindness. And if they failed? Then maybe it was time to stop being their bank and start being their mirror. If you won millions, would you tell your family right away, or would you keep it secret like I did? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you are enjoying this story. When you give people money, they don't always show you who they are. Sometimes they put on a smile, say thank you, and then disappear the moment they get what they want. But when you ask people for time, that's different. Time is personal. You can't fake it. You can't pretend you were there if you weren't. That's why the first test I set up for my family wasn't about cash. It was about minutes, hours, and presence. I decided to ask each person for something small, something easy. Not a giant sacrifice, just a simple act of showing up. A ride to an appointment. Waiting with me at the mechanic. Helping me carry some boxes to storage. Sitting with me at a clinic for tests. These were all believable requests. The kind of favors anyone would ask family to help with. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to pressure. I was just going to ask once and see how they reacted. I called my mom, Diane, on a Wednesday evening. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to sound a little weary. "Cassie, you sound tired," she replied. "Long day?" "Yeah," I said, "and I actually wanted to ask a favor. I have an appointment at the clinic Friday morning. Nothing serious, just some tests. I don't like going alone. Do you think you could come sit with me for an hour?" There was silence on the other end. Then a long sigh. "Oh, honey, you know Warren and I are leaving for the lake house Thursday night. We just got the down payment sorted, and we want to get a head start setting it up. Maybe Lisa could go with you? She doesn't work Fridays." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "Right. No problem." Her voice brightened. "I'll be thinking of you, though. And text me after so I know everything went well." "Sure, Mom." I hung up and wrote it down in my little notebook. "Mom, too busy." Next, I called my dad, Gregory. He answered on the second ring. "Cassandra," he said in that clipped teacher voice of his. He never calls me Cassie. "Hi, Dad. I was wondering if you could give me a ride to an appointment on Saturday. My car's been acting up, and I don't want to risk it on the freeway." He chuckled, not kindly. "Cassie, you're 34. You should know how to handle car trouble by now. Call a tow service or Uber." "It's just one ride," I said softly. "Stephanie and I have plans," he cut in. "Besides, it's not responsible to rely on others for basic things like transportation. This is exactly why I tell you to keep an emergency fund. Honestly, Cassandra, sometimes I wonder if you'll ever learn." My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "Got it, Dad. Thanks anyway." After we hung up, I added it to the notebook. "Dad, lecture, no help." On Saturday morning, I drove to Lisa's immaculate suburban house. She opened the door in yoga pants, latte in hand. "Cassie." What a surprise. "Hey, I was hoping you could help me carry some boxes down to my storage unit," I said. "Just a few, but they're heavy. I could use an extra pair of hands." She glanced at her manicure and winced. "Oh gosh, today's not great. The kids have swim lessons, and then Paul and I are meeting friends for dinner. Maybe next weekend?" "It won't take more than an hour," I said. She hesitated, then brightened. "Well, maybe you could move them into our guest room instead? You could even stay here for a while. Paul's been saying the city is too expensive anyway." Translation: she didn't want to lift boxes, but she was fine with me making my life smaller to fit into hers. I smiled tightly. "Thanks, but I'll figure it out." Notebook, Lisa, excuses, no time. My brother Jason was easy. I texted him, "Car's at the shop. Could you wait with it for an hour while I handle some paperwork nearby?" He texted back instantly, "Of course, sis. I got you." For a second, my chest loosened. Maybe he would surprise me. I drove to the mechanic's lot early and parked across the street, waiting to see if he'd show up. The hour passed. Then 2. No Jason. When I finally texted him again, my messages went unanswered. Notebook, Jason, promised, never showed. I called Aunt Heather, my father's wealthy older sister. "Aunt Heather, could you come sit with me at the clinic next Tuesday? It's just some blood work, but it would help to have someone there." She sniffed. "Cassandra, honestly, you're too dramatic. I've had dozens of appointments alone. You don't need hand-holding at your age." I just thought. Really, you should use your time to job hunt instead of leaning on family. Call me when you have something to celebrate. Click. She hung up. Notebook, Heather, dismissed me. As for her son Ryan, I didn't even bother calling. He still owed me money from 3 years ago, and last I heard, he was knee-deep in gambling debts. Finally, I called Aunt Martha. She's my mom's younger sister, an elementary school teacher who lives in a tiny apartment filled with books and plants. "Hey, Aunt Martha. I have an appointment next Thursday. Nothing major, but I don't want to go alone. Do you think?" "Say no more," she interrupted. "I'll be there." "What time?" I smiled. 9 a.m. "I'll bring snacks. And I'll drive, so you don't have to worry about parking." When Thursday came, she showed up 15 minutes early in her old Honda. She had a thermos of tea for me, crackers, and even a crossword puzzle to keep us entertained while we waited. She sat beside me the whole time, never once complaining. When the nurse called my name, Martha squeezed my hand and said, "You'll be fine, sweetheart." And for the first time in this whole experiment, I actually felt cared for. Notebook, Martha showed up early, snacks in hand. By the end of the week, the notebook told the story I already suspected. Mom was too busy. Dad lectured. Lisa had excuses. Jason ghosted. Heather dismissed me. Ryan wasn't worth the call. Only Martha cared enough to show up. The rest had taken my money when they needed it. Thousands of dollars over the years. But when I asked for something as simple as an hour of their time, they couldn't be bothered. That was my first answer. And it stung. If you asked your family for nothing but their time, who do you think would show up for you? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more sweet revenge stories. If the time test showed me who would physically show up, the next test I planned was about something more delicate: privacy. You see, in my family, secrets don't last. Whisper something to one person, and by dinner, everyone knows. And not just the facts, oh no. By the time the story spreads, it has been twisted, stretched, and dressed up until it hardly resembles the truth. If I was going to decide who I could trust with my real secret, the $47 million, I needed to see who could keep something small and harmless. So I made one up. I decided to tell each person the same thing. That I had some medical tests coming up, and while it was nothing definite, the doctors had found something concerning. It wasn't true. I was fine. But I made it sound vague enough that it would spark curiosity, maybe even sympathy. And the most important part, I would ask them to please keep it private. This was my bait. I wanted to see who would respect me enough to stay silent, and who would treat my life like gossip for the family grapevine. I called my mom first. "Hi, Mom. There's something I want to tell you, but please, don't mention it to anyone yet." Instantly, her tone sharpened. "What's wrong?" "I've had some tests done. Nothing final, but they think there might be something. The doctor wants me back for more scans next week." "Oh, Cassie," she gasped. "Are you serious? Is it cancer?" "I don't know. That's why they're testing." "But Mom, please, don't tell anyone until I know for sure." "Of course, sweetheart," she said quickly. "You can trust me." I hung up knowing full well that trust and my mother didn't belong in the same sentence. And sure enough, 2 days later, Lisa called. "Mom said you're having health issues. Why didn't you tell me? Paul could refer you to specialists." Strike one. I met Dad for coffee. Halfway through his lecture about rising inflation, I slipped it in. "Dad, listen. I've had some medical tests. The doctors want to double-check something. I'm trying not to worry until I know more. Please don't tell anyone." He frowned, then leaned forward. Cassandra, you have to take these things seriously. Have you been exercising? Eating properly? You really should have been saving more in case something like this happened. Dad, I interrupted, I just need you to keep it private for now. He nodded. Of course. The next day, my phone buzzed with a text from Stephanie, my stepmother. We heard you've been hiding health problems. Gregory says you really should have prepared better. Maybe this will teach you responsibility. Strike 2. I went straight to my sister. I sat in her spotless kitchen while she brewed cappuccinos from her shiny espresso machine. Lisa, I said, lowering my voice, I need to tell you something. I'm having more medical tests done. Please, don't tell Paul yet. I just need some time before the whole family knows. Her eyes widened with faux sympathy. Oh, Cassie, of course. You can count on me. By evening, I got a text from Aunt Heather. I heard about your medical scare. This is what happens when people don't take proper care of themselves. You should have followed my advice years ago. I stared at the message, my stomach churning. Lisa had lasted less than 6 hours. Strike 3. Jason was harder to pin down. He rarely answered calls, so I sent him a message. I'm going in for some medical tests. Please keep it quiet. He replied instantly, wow. That sucks. Hope it's not serious. You'll be fine though. Don't stress. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd surprise me. Until 2 nights later, a cousin I hadn't spoken to in months messaged me on Facebook, "Hey, heard you might be sick. Is it true? Sending prayers." Jason had spilled it casually in a group chat. Strike 4. Finally, I went to Aunt Martha. We had tea at her little apartment surrounded by plants. Aunt Martha, I need you to promise me something, I said. She reached across the table, taking my hand. Anything, sweetheart. I'm going for some medical tests. Nothing certain yet. Please don't tell anyone. I just don't want rumors until I know. She nodded gently. Cassie, your secrets are safe with me. Always. And she meant it. Days passed. No whispers, no texts, no sideways glances. Martha kept my secret locked tight, the way a real family member should. Notebook update. Mom, leaked to Lisa. Dad, leaked to Stephanie. Lisa, leaked to Heather. Jason, leaked to cousins. Martha, kept silent. Within a week, the family grapevine was buzzing. Lisa posted vague prayers up for those struggling with health challenges quotes on Instagram. Heather had already exaggerated my tests into a serious diagnosis. Stephanie texted me an article about budgeting during illness, as if money were the only concern. The only 2 people who hadn't betrayed my privacy were Aunt Martha and Charlotte, my best friend, who had no idea I was even running a test. Everyone else? They had turned my secret into dinner table entertainment. I sat on my couch that Sunday night, notebook open, staring at the words I'd written. Time, only Martha showed up. Privacy, only Martha and Charlotte respected it. 2 tests in, the pattern was already painfully clear. The people I had once given thousands of dollars to couldn't give me an hour of their time or keep a single sentence to themselves. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more test I wanted to run. Not about time. Not about privacy. This one would be about kindness. Would any of them spare a few dollars for a stranger in need? Or was compassion something they only expected from me? The first 2 tests had been simple. Time. Who would sit with me, drive me, or help me carry boxes? Only Martha. Privacy. Who would keep a harmless secret? Again, only Martha. But the third test? This one mattered most to me. Because money had always been at the center of my family's treatment of me. They had drained me when it suited them, but when I asked for the smallest things, they were nowhere to be found. So I wanted to know, if they thought no one was watching, would they show kindness with their own wallets, just a few dollars, not thousands? I called it the kindness test. I went to Gus, the friendly owner of the little corner market where I'd been buying my lottery tickets for years. Gus, I said, lowering my voice, I need a favor. He raised an eyebrow. What kind of favor, Cassie? I explained my plan. I'd put money into an angel fund at his store. If someone came to the counter short a few dollars, whether it was for bread, milk, diapers, or formula, the cashier would ask the next person in line if they'd like to help cover it. If the person refused, the angel fund would quietly step in so the customer wouldn't go without. But if they agreed, Gus would note it for me. And you want me to test your family, Gus said slowly, a smile tugging at his lips. Exactly. Just a few bucks. I want to see who says yes. He chuckled. Well, this is a new one. But I'll do it for you. Your family shops here enough, anyway. We shook hands on it. My heart thudded in my chest. This was it, the final test. The first person I sent was my sister, Lisa. I texted her casually, hey, Gus's Market has the best organic honey on sale this week. You should grab some before it sells out. Lisa loved anything with the words organic or on sale. She went that afternoon. Later, Gus called me, his voice low with amusement. She came in, all polished, talking about her Pilates class. At checkout, the cashier rang up a young mom ahead of her who was short on baby formula. Just a few dollars shy. The cashier asked if your sister would like to help cover it. My breath caught. And? Gus sighed. She wrinkled her nose and said, that's not really my responsibility. Then she tapped her card for her honey and walked out. I closed my eyes, unsurprised but still hurt. Lisa, who once let me cover thousands for her wedding, couldn't spare a few dollars for a struggling mom. Notebook, Lisa refused. A week later, I steered Dad into the trap. He loves scratch-off tickets, so I mentioned Gus had new ones in stock. Sure enough, he went. Gus reported back. A college kid ahead of him didn't have enough for bread and peanut butter. The cashier asked if your dad wanted to help. I braced myself. He snorted, Gus said. Kids these days should budget better. No handouts from me. Then he bought his scratchers and left. My jaw tightened. This was the same man who had lectured me about responsibility while letting me pay for his roof repair vacation. Notebook, Dad refused. Stephanie, my stepmother, was easier. She loves imported chocolates, and Gus had just stocked some. The setup was similar, a man short on a few dollars for sandwich ingredients. The cashier asked if she'd like to help. She gave me a look like I'd asked her to donate a kidney, Gus said dryly. Said, that's not my job. Then she complained the chocolate was dusty. Notebook, Stephanie refused. Not everyone failed. Aunt Martha came in one evening to grab milk and tea. Gus didn't even need my text, she was a regular. That night, Gus called, his voice soft. Cassie, she didn't hesitate. There was a young mom short on baby formula. Before the cashier even finished asking, Martha pulled a 20 from her wallet. She said, use whatever's left for the next person who needs it. Tears pricked my eyes. Martha, who lived paycheck to paycheck, who drove an ancient Honda, who had health issues of her own, was the one who reached into her thin wallet to help someone else. Notebook, Martha gave generously. Out of curiosity, I even tested Charlotte. I told her Gus's deli sandwiches were worth trying. Later, Gus called laughing. Your friend? A teenager didn't have enough for bus fare. Charlotte didn't just cover it. She bought him a monthly pass. My chest swelled with pride. Charlotte had always been my rock, and once again, she proved it. As for Gus himself, he told me something that stopped me cold. You know, Cassie, one day your cousin Ryan came in. He was short on cash for cigarettes, and when I asked the next person in line if they'd help, Ryan turned around and mocked the kid behind him for not having enough for chips. I didn't even bother asking him to help. Notebook, Ryan failed without being asked. By the end of the month, my notebook looked like this. Lisa refused. Dad refused. Stephanie refused. Heather didn't even get tested, her cruelty was already proven. Jason never showed up, never helped. Ryan mocked others. Martha gave generously. Charlotte gave generously. Gus helped quietly when no one else did. The wealthy, the privileged, the ones who had drained me dry for years, they gave nothing. The ones with the least, Martha, Charlotte, and even Gus, gave the most. I stared at my notebook one night, tears blurring the ink. Time. Privacy. Kindness. Over and over, the same truth emerged. Most of my family only knew how to take. Only Martha, Charlotte, and Gus knew how to give. The tests were done. The answers were in. And now, it was time for me to act. Not as their ATM. Not as their doormat. But as the woman who had $47 million and a plan. If you saw your family refuse kindness over just a few dollars, would you forgive them, or would you remember it forever? What time is it where you are? Comment below, and subscribe to this channel for more sweet revenge stories. You know what happens when you give people money over and over again? They start to think it's normal. Like you were born to carry their problems. But here's the thing about storms. When you keep paying for someone else's umbrella, they forget what rain feels like. That's what my family did to me. I remembered Jason crying on the phone, swearing he needed $5,000 for rehab. Me, emptying my savings account, desperate to help. And then finding out later he never went. He blew it in Vegas. I remembered Lisa. Her perfect smile, her fancy wedding. She asked for just a little help to cover the bills. $2,000 on my credit card. She promised she'd pay me back. She never did. And then she joked about it later, like I was cheap for even expecting it. And my dad. His panicked call about storm damage to his roof. Me sending him $3,500. Then seeing pictures of him and Stephanie sipping margaritas in Cancun. Even Aunt Heather. Her medical fundraiser. She said she was sick. I sent money. Later, I saw her strutting into a family dinner with a new designer handbag. Every single one of them had used me like a bank machine. No thank yous. No repayments. Just outstretched hands. And now, after all those years of draining me dry, when I asked for a single hour of their time, or begged them to keep one small secret, or when strangers needed a few dollars for bread or baby formula right in front of them, they gave nothing. That's when I knew. I wasn't just going to test them. I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to flip the script. With my lawyer Philip's help, I started looking into something most people don't even know exists. You see, when people don't pay their bills, credit cards, medical expenses, payday loans, companies don't always chase them forever. A lot of the time, they sell that debt. Pennies on the dollar. To collectors. Collectors who then own that debt and decide what happens next. And guess what? With the right lawyer, I could become that collector. I could literally buy my family's storms. So here's what we did. Philip set up an LLC under a neutral name. Through that company, we quietly purchased portfolios of small debts in my state. And in those files, I found the names of people I knew. Jason's overdue credit card balances. Lisa's revolving store accounts. Dad and Stephanie's unpaid medical bill from a cosmetic procedure they'd hidden. Even Ryan's mountain of payday loans from his gambling. All of it. Piece by piece, I bought it. And then I made a choice. For Martha, the only one who had ever truly stood by me, her debts wiped clean. Every bill gone. On top of that, I set up a trust to cover her medical expenses forever. For Charlotte, my best friend, who had never betrayed me, I didn't just clear her credit card debt. I set her up as outreach director of the nonprofit I was about to build. For Gus, the store owner who had helped me test everyone, I funded a permanent angel fund at his shop, so no customer would ever go hungry again. And the rest of them? No harassment. No scary letters. No collectors banging on their doors. But they would have to pay. Not cruelly. Not with crushing interest. But fairly. With clear terms. With no escape. Because if I had to carry their storms for years while they left me out in the rain, then now, at least, they'd have to feel what weather really is. Do you know what that felt like? For the first time in my life, I wasn't the desperate one giving everything away. I was in control. I wasn't their bank anymore. I was their mirror. And soon, very soon, they were going to see their reflection. What would you do if you could buy your family's debts? Would you forgive them, or would you make them pay? Drop your thoughts in the comments. When you hold a secret like mine, it burns in your chest. $47 million. Tests that showed who my family really was. Debts that now sat in my name. I couldn't carry it quietly forever. So I did something bold. I invited them all over. It was a Sunday afternoon. My small apartment never looked so tidy. I brewed coffee, set out tea, even bought a plate of pastries so no one could say I hadn't been welcoming. One by one, they came. My mother, Diane, wearing a bright scarf and an air of distracted guilt. Warren, my stepfather, who barely looked at me. My father, Gregory, with his lecture face already loaded and ready. Stephanie, pursed lips and expensive perfume. Lisa, her perfect smile hiding sharp edges. Jason, late as usual, sunglasses indoors, pretending he had it all together. And of course, Aunt Heather, frowning, judgmental, arms folded. Even Ryan showed up, jittery, his eyes darting like a gambler on a losing streak. And last, Aunt Martha, slipping in quietly, giving me a reassuring squeeze on the hand before sitting down. The room was thick with curiosity. They all wanted to know why I'd called this important family meeting. I stood up, notebook in hand, and looked at every face. My voice was calm. Steady. Thank you all for coming. I asked you here because over the past few weeks, I've been testing something. Testing you. Confused glances. A cough. Jason snorted. Testing us? Lisa laughed nervously. Cassie, what are you talking about? I opened the notebook. 3 tests. Time. privacy, kindness. And here's what I found. I flipped to the first page. Test 1, time. Who showed up when I asked for something simple? Mom said she was too busy. Dad gave me a lecture. Lisa had excuses. Jason promised but never came. Heather dismissed me. The only one who showed up early with snacks was Aunt Martha. The room shifted uncomfortably. Martha kept her gaze on her lap. Test 2, privacy. I shared a small secret and asked you not to repeat it. Mom, you told Lisa. Dad, you told Stephanie. Lisa, you told Heather. Jason, you told cousins. Only Martha and Charlotte kept it to themselves. Stephanie scoffed. Oh please, it wasn't that serious. I raised my hand, silencing her. Test 3, kindness. At Gus's market, when strangers came up a few dollars short, the cashier asked if you'd help. Lisa, you said no. Dad, you said no. Stephanie, you said no. Heather, you didn't even get tested, I already knew your answer. Jason and Ryan didn't even make it that far. But Martha? She gave more than she had. Charlotte bought a bus pass. Even Gus himself helped. But not you. I let the silence hang. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Jason laughed nervously. Okay, Cassie, cute little social experiment. But what's your point? I closed the notebook. My voice dropped. The point is, for years, I carried your storms. I paid your bills. Your weddings. Your fake emergencies. I drained myself dry while you took and took. And when I finally needed something small, your time, your silence, your kindness, you gave me nothing. Faces flushed. Defensiveness bubbled up. My father leaned forward. Cassandra, that's unfair. No, Dad. What's unfair is me paying $3,500 for your roof, only to see you in Cancun. What's unfair is Jason's rehab money going to Vegas. Lisa's wedding costs still unpaid. Heather's fake fundraiser buying handbags. Heather gasped. How dare you? I cut her off. Don't bother denying it. I know. I took a breath. This was it. There's something else you should know. Some of your debts? They belong to me now. The room froze. What are you talking about? Lisa whispered. With my lawyer's help, I bought them. Credit cards. Medical bills. Payday loans. The debts you thought belonged to faceless companies? They're mine now. Jason's face drained of color. Ryan's hands twitched in his lap. Even Dad looked rattled. Lisa's voice cracked. You can't do that. I already did. I straightened my shoulders. For the ones who showed up, who proved they still knew what family meant, Martha, Charlotte, even Gus, your burdens are lifted. Your debts are gone. You're free. I turned, meeting the others' eyes one by one. But the rest of you? You'll pay. Not to cruel collectors. Not with crushing interest. But fairly. With rules. With no escape. Because if I had to carry your storms out of love, now you'll carry them out of justice. The silence was deafening. Jason sputtered. This is insane. You're punishing us? I looked at him calmly. No. I'm holding up a mirror. And in that moment, standing in my tiny apartment, something changed. For the first time in my life, I wasn't their wallet. I wasn't their doormat. I wasn't begging for scraps of affection. I was the one setting the terms. Was I too harsh, or was it finally fair? What would you do in my place? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you are enjoying this story. You know what's funny? When you stand up for yourself, people call it cruelty. But when they use you for years, that's just family. After that meeting, I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just let the silence do the work. And one by one, they left my apartment, muttering, grumbling, making excuses. But not Martha. She stayed. She helped me wash the mugs. She squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "I'm proud of you, Cassie." And that's when I knew. The money wasn't for them. It was for the people who truly showed me what love looked like. The very next week, I called Martha and told her to meet me at a small house on a quiet street. It was nothing extravagant. A single-story craftsman, freshly painted, with a porch perfect for sipping tea. Inside, wide doorways and a cozy kitchen easy for her on days when her diabetes made walking hard. She looked at me, confused. "Cassie, whose house is this?" I handed her the keys. My voice trembled. "Yours. Paid in full. No rent. No mortgage. Just yours." Her eyes filled with tears. I can't accept this. It's too much." I smiled through my own tears. "Aunt Martha, you gave me your time. Your silence. Your kindness. You gave me love when nobody else did. This isn't charity. This is honor." She hugged me so tightly, I could barely breathe. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Then came Charlotte. My best friend, my rock. The one who never judged, never gossiped, never failed me. I sat her down over dinner. "Charlotte, I have something for you." She laughed. "Please don't tell me you bought me a house too. I can barely keep my apartment clean." I grinned. "No house. A job. A real one. Outreach director for the nonprofit I'm starting. We'll focus on helping seniors, people like Martha, who are alone and struggling. You'll have a salary, benefits, everything." Her jaw dropped. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. You're the only person I trust to do this with me." She wiped her eyes. "Cassie, you've just given me my dream." And then there was Gus. The man who'd sold me that lucky ticket without knowing what it would do to my life. The man who'd quietly kept my secret tests running. One evening, I stopped by his store. He greeted me the same way he always had. "Hey, Cassie, got your lottery picks ready?" I laughed. "Not this time, Gus. This time, I've got something for you." I handed him a folder. Inside was paperwork showing that the Angel Fund, the little account I'd used to test my family, was now permanent. Backed by me. "From now on," I said, "if anyone comes up short at your counter, milk, bread, baby formula, you'll never have to say no. The fund will always be full." His hands shook as he held the papers. "Cassie, do you have any idea what this means for this neighborhood?" I nodded. "Yeah. It means no one walks away empty-handed again." He pulled me into a hug. "Kid, you're an angel." "And what about the rest of them?" "Lisa, Jason, Dad, Stephanie, Heather, Ryan. They got nothing. No houses. No jobs. No angel funds. Just their debts. Fair terms, no interest gouging. But still, they're debts. Because love without responsibility isn't love at all. As I drove home that night, I felt lighter. Not because of the money I'd spent, but because of the weight I'd finally put down. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing their approval. I wasn't begging to be seen. I wasn't buying my way into rooms where I was only valued when I was useful. I had given my gifts to people who deserved them. And that felt better than winning the lottery ever could. Let me know in the comments, if you suddenly won millions, who would you gift first? 1 year later, my life didn't look anything like the one I had before. I woke up in a house that was mine. Not too big, not too flashy, just right. I brewed coffee in a kitchen filled with sunlight. Out back, I had a little garden where I grew tomatoes and herbs. And just 3 blocks away, Aunt Martha lived in her cozy craftsman. I visited her almost every evening. Sometimes we sat on her porch, sipping tea. Sometimes she came over to my place for dinner. She laughed more now. She looked healthier. She wasn't weighed down by money worries anymore. Charlotte worked with me every day. Our nonprofit had already helped hundreds of seniors, paying overdue bills, repairing homes, sitting with them when no one else would. She told me once, "Cassie, this is the happiest I've ever been." And I believed her. Even Gus had changed. His store was still the same corner market it had always been, but now, there was a sign near the register, "Need a hand? The Angel Fund has you covered." He told me stories of mothers leaving with baby formula, of kids walking out with bread and peanut butter, of old men buying medicine without shame. That fund made people cry at the counter. Made people believe in kindness again. And Gus would always wink and say, "Don't thank me. Thank the angel." As for the rest of my family, we were polite. Civil, a birthday call here. A holiday dinner there. But the truth was plain now, and there was no going back. Jason still made excuses. Lisa still played perfect. Dad still lectured. Heather still judged. Ryan still gambled. But none of them looked at me the same way anymore. They knew I wasn't their wallet. Not their backup plan. Not their storm shelter. And that distance? It wasn't loss. It was freedom. Here's the lesson I learned. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. It revealed that most of my family saw me as a resource, not a person. It revealed that kindness is rarer than excuses. It revealed that the ones with the least, Martha, Charlotte, Gus, were the ones who gave the most. And it revealed something about me, too. I used to think love meant giving until I was empty. I thought family meant sacrificing myself so they could be comfortable. I thought my worth was measured in what I could hand over. But now, I know better. Real love doesn't drain you. It fills you. Real family doesn't just take. They show up, they keep your trust, they give even when it costs them. And worth? My worth was never in the dollars I gave away. It was in the strength I found to stop begging for scraps and finally set boundaries. One evening, I sat on Martha's porch watching the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. She patted my hand and said, "Cassie, you did good. Not just with the money, with yourself." I smiled at her, tears stinging my eyes. I had a good teacher. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. So let me ask you, have you ever found out the truth about someone only when you had nothing left to give? What did you learn? Share your story in the comments. And if mine spoke to you, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your worth is not measured by what you hand out.